What's up, everyone? My name is James. Welcome back to the Source Plug, the place where we talk about movies, TV shows, and theories every now and again. Today, I went to see the recent MCU movie, Thor, Love, and Thunder. It brings back the Thor Ragnarok gang, such as Chris Hemsworth as Thor, Natalie Portman as Jane Foster, Mighty Thor, Taika Waititi, I believe I'm saying his name right, that's the director, but he's also playing Korg, and Tessa Thompson as Valkyrie. This will be a spoiler review involving the breakdown of two post-credit scenes. I would love to hear from Marvel fans your thoughts from the film. So far, the internet discourse for this film has been the same for MCU Phase 4 movies. Fans have a hard time coming together if the movie was good, bad, or somewhere in between. So make sure you leave your own reviews down below. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content. Let's not waste any more time. Welcome to my review. Thor, Love, and Thunder revolves around Thor going through this journey of finding inner peace, going on adventures with the Guardians of the Galaxy. Thor still feels there's nothing left for him in this world, so now he is the quote-unquote bailout weapon for Guardians of the Galaxy when the going gets tough. Elsewhere, Jane Foster is on Earth and going through chemotherapy as she has stage 4 cancer with no treatment able to slow the progression. Finally, we enter the antagonist of the story, Gore the God Butcher, played by Christian Bale. Gore's daughter dies after the gods refuse to answer his plea. Because of the unwillingness to save Gore's daughter, Gore instead is drawn to the Necrosword, a sword that grants him the power to kill gods. So, the beginning of the movie provides us with the origin of Gore and his daughter in the desert. As Gore and his daughter are without food, water, and shelter, Gore prays to his god Rapu to save them. Unfortunately, Rapu does not save them as Gore's daughter passes away. After time passes, Gore is finally able to meet Rapu and asks for assistance as Gore is the last disciple remaining. Rapu ignores his plea. Thus, the Necrosword calls upon Gore to enact revenge. Gore takes it and kills Rapu, starting. I believe the opening scene that I just described had the right story elements, but the execution was off. It came across as a quick and dirty origin story to show the motivation for Gore, but not the emotional need from the audience. The scene between Gore The scene between Gore and Rapu escalates rather quickly, to be honest with you. Gore goes from pleading to a god he believed in his entire life, devoted to Rapu, as Gore claims he was a disciple, to have devout faith and meet the god that refuses to help. I felt the turn to killing gods should have had more breathing room. Imagine you meet a celebrity, right? You were inspired by and they turn out to be not what you expected. You wouldn't immediately brush them off. You psychologically will create excuses to justify their actions while the truth smacks you in the face. With Christian Bale as your antagonist, this could have been a heartbreaking performance. Gore's screen time is something else I want to touch on, but I'll save that for later in the video. So continuing on, I just want to say Thor Love and Thunder is a great action-packed joyride that I can't see anyone leaving the theater not at least being entertained. I have to admit, I chuckled at Korg summarizing the lengthy story of Thor's adventures in MCU, but this is where they treat every tragedy of Thor's as a joke, and that's something. It's not that I have an issue with the humor, it just comes with the Marvel projects, right? It's just when Korg kept saying Loki died, then came back, then died again, it was pretty funny the way he said it. Gotta give it to him. The issue I have with the film is that the humor is not balanced out. It seems like every character in the story has jokes. Even Gore has funny mannerisms occasionally, right? The humor overbears the entire film that drowns the heavy topic it's trying to address. In Thor Ragnarok, you had the Odin scene when he passed away, and there was breathing room in that scene to give it the emotional weight necessary before a joke was thrown in there. The first 10 minutes of this movie is Thor and the Guardians of the Galaxy fighting the enemy, and it's just constant joke after joke after joke. This sets the tone of the movie for the audience to see the story as a joke. So when the movie requires emotional investment, it's not there because you didn't set the audience's mental expectations for serious scenes. I will say that Thor Love and Thunder does a better job not injecting humor in serious moments compared to Thor Ragnarok that allows some form of character development to happen, right? So speaking of character development, I believe Thor has digressed as a character in MCU. In Thor 1, we had a careless Thor that didn't care about anyone else and only wanted people to stroke his ego. We then had to go on a journey with him throughout the trilogy on what it means to be the son of Odin, the power of teamwork, leadership, how to be worthy again. So It sucks seeing Thor in the first 10 minutes regress as a character, as if all he learned in the first trilogy never happened. But this sounds too negative of a review, so I'll throw in my positives at least. Jane Foster was fantastic as Mighty Thor. She was a great inclusion with incredible action scenes. When the film actually gives Natalie Portman the spotlight, she takes it and makes it hers. It was a joy seeing her back in the MCU. That dynamic between Natalie and Chris Hemsworth was a great thing to see. She did a great job showing a weakened character suffering through cancer, and it really tugs at your heartstrings seeing her battling this disease. It was a nice thing to show that Thor is still worthy of holding Mjolnir, so that the audience know that's at least one piece of his arc that remains intact, right? But honestly, speaking of hammers, let's just talk about the joke that they kept running to the ground. Look, I laughed at first with Stormbreaker acting like the jealous partner staring down Thor because the ex, which is Mjolnir, I want to get it right, Mjolnir, is in town. But after a couple of times, it got a little weird, to be honest with you. Thor starts caressing Stormbreaker with his fingers and drowns it in beer to show he still loves Stormbreaker. At that point, the joke ran its course. The screaming goats were hilarious though, but by the third act, it just didn't hit the same anymore, to be honest. And moving on to Valkyrie, I really enjoyed her character in Thor Ragnarok, and I was hoping she'd have a bigger role in this film. It seems clear that there had to be a subplot showing us Valkyrie running Asgard and not enjoying the boring tasks that come with leadership. Side note too, by the way, it looks like nobody's really happy ruling Asgard. Not Odin, not Loki, not Thor, or even Valkyrie at this point. I just thought this would have been a great opportunity to show the transformation Asgard had to become to fit on Earth, and how Asgard's, in particular Valkyrie, felt about that. Having to be a tourist attraction, living on Earth, etc., would have just been an interesting subplot. But it seems they felt it wasn't a necessary arc for Valkyrie to learn how to actually lead the Asgardians and actually lead this new kingdom on Earth. It just leads to Valkyrie not being as interesting as a character and has her involvement feeling sidelined, honestly. But before I talk about the post-credit scenes, let's address the ending. Towards the end of the movie, it's revealed that Mjolnir is somehow stopping Jane Foster from recovering from her cancer. This plays just like in the comics, where the more she is Thor, the more it kills her, and I believe that was a great story element to introduce. It has this compelling narrative that Jane would rather save others and risk her life than continue doing chemotherapy and hoping she makes it out. I won't lie to y'all, I'm surprised they killed Jane Foster. I thought they would find some explanation to keep her alive, but they pulled through. They pulled through. That's the only compliment I can provide for it though, because the emotional weight of Jane's death wasn't there for me. It bums me out that I couldn't get invested into her death, but that's a consequence of setting a humorous tone where every other scene is a joke. I find it funny how we suddenly learn Thor has the ability to change his costume whenever he wants, but he could also grant anyone the power of Thor just by speaking it. No explanation prior or any hints. It was simply a plot device used to explain how the Asgardian kids could possibly fight the shadow monsters. Now, now it's whenever I see Thor with other superheroes, I'll just simply wonder why he can't just share the power of Thor with his teammates. But I doubt we'll ever see that power again with Thor. It also it also regressed Thor's character, because it was very reckless and irresponsible of Thor to have the Asgardian kids fight the monsters. They could have died or been seriously injured. The smart plan would have been sending the kids home and Thor having to overcome the shadow monsters and Gore by himself. It would have felt like his ending battle with Gore would have been earned and at least show that he still kept some of the traits from from the previous trilogy. The biggest shocker for me is when Love, Gore's daughter, is brought back to life. I didn't know this, but Love is actually Chris Hemsworth's daughter Rose in real life, which makes the ending better for me since I know it's his real life daughter actually. But my issue with the conclusion of Thor's arc, trying to find inner peace with Jane gone, Gore gone, the answer to Thor's arc was being a parental figure. It just felt forced for Thor only because Thor's dying love Jane promised that he would without actually having Thor's input. I have no issue with the concept of Thor being a father. By the way, I think it's a great concept. I think it's a really good idea. But the execution is what bugs me the wrong way. It it just doesn't feel earned nor powerful. I did enjoy the back and forth Love and Thor had, but the ending scene had her shooting lasers out of her eyes. Did she always have those abilities? Did Gore have that ability? You know what I'm saying? Like, I will say though, when Korg was narrating at the end and called them Love and Thunder, I really dug that. I thought that was very sweet. I thought that was very nice. I really enjoyed that. Overall, the movie had an issue with balancing its tone. It felt like two separate movies, one an action-packed adventure, and the other a dark fantasy revenge story. For someone called Gore the God Butcher, there wasn't much butchering the audience saw. That's my biggest complaint that you have. You have Christian Bale and limit his screen time and dialogue. You need to up that so you can reel the audience into his performance. I was originally upset at how Gore was talked down from wishing to kill all gods with eternity, but I remembered at the end of the day, Gore was simply fighting for justice in his own way and really just wanted his daughter to be alive again. So I would leave that as an acceptable ending for Gore. Honestly, if Christian Bale wasn't the antagonist, I probably would give a lower rating. I'm not afraid to say that Christian Bale carried this movie, with Chris Hemsworth's charming presence being the secondary positive towards the film. But let me know your thoughts down below regarding the movie. Did you love it? Did you hate it? In between? Let me know. And I'll catch y'all later. This is the Source Plug, and I'm out. Peace.